Hello everyone, it's Chris Clark with DiscGolf.Law. On October 11th, the PDGA announced disciplinary actions against three familiar faces in the disc golf world. Disgraced tournament director Jonathan Ray, Masters world champion JohnE McCray, and touring pro Eric Oakley. This is the first time in 2 years that we've seen the PDGA take disciplinary action against high-profile figures in disc golf. So we wanted to take a look at the PDGA's policies and review the available facts in these prominent cases. The PDGA Board of Directors established the disciplinary committee to investigate and make recommendations in dealing with extraordinary disciplinary matters. The committee consists of one chairperson and 3 or more members who are appointed by the chairperson. The current chairman is Robert Leonard, former North Carolina PDGA state coordinator, major tournament director, and PDGA disciplinary committee member since 2006. The committee classifies offenses into one of 5 categories that each carry a standard penalty, although mitigating and aggravating factors may be considered in their final ruling. Class A offenses are the most serious and generally involve actual harm to other players, physical attacks, sexual assault, and credible threats of imminent harm. These carry a standard 2-year suspension followed by 1 year of probation. Class B offenses generally involve intentional subversion of the rules of play, cheating, theft, or dishonesty with the intent to gain a competitive advantage. Interestingly, the purposeful filing of a frivolous or baseless complaint is also a Class B offense. These carry a standard penalty of 1 year suspension followed by 1 year of probation. Class C offenses are a bit vague. They generally involve instances where intent is difficult to prove, but there is an articulable and provable pattern of misbehavior. Verbal harassment, discriminatory behavior, and habitual violations of the courtesy rules are among the most common Class C offenses. These carry a standard penalty of a 6-month suspension followed by 3 months of probation. Class D offenses generally involve violations of the PDGA's drug and alcohol policy and carry a standard penalty of 6 months probation. And finally, Class E offenses are administrative and deal with things like non-payment of event fees or violations of the PDGA sanctioning agreement. These often carry an open-ended suspension until the required fees are paid, and then that is followed by an additional 6 months of suspension. Let's turn our attention back to the individuals mentioned earlier, and we'll start with the harshest of the 3 actions, the year-long suspension for Jonathan Ray. We recently did a video breaking down the Jonathan Ray Masters at Bud Hill situation. So if you're unfamiliar with what happened, I recommend checking that out. To make a long story short, Jonathan collected nearly $30,000 in tournament registration funds over the course of this year, all for a popular Masters tournament in Tennessee. A little over a month before the event, Jonathan announced he would not be able to run the event and that he did not have funds available to issue players refunds because he spent the money on other things. The disciplinary committee gave Jonathan a 1-year suspension plus 1 year of probation, which, as we just mentioned, is the standard for a Class B offense. The PDGA categorizing Jonathan Ray's behavior as a Class B offense caught my eye because the PDGA specifically identifies administrative violations, such as non-payment of event fees, as a Class E offense, which carries an open-ended suspension until the funds are repaid. Class B offenses require a higher standard of proof, than Class D and E offenses. So the fact that the committee classified this situation as a Class B offense means they believe the case involved fraudulent acts. Based on this information, we can conclude that the PDGA believes there is clear and convincing evidence that Jonathan was dishonest in taking registration money for the event, and whatever mitigating factors they considered were not enough to deviate from the standard consequences for a Class B penalty. During his suspension, Jonathan may not play in, register for, direct, or officiate PDGA events. He is also barred from holding PDGA office and voting in PDGA elections. In our previous video, I predicted that Jonathan Ray would never run another PDGA event, and I stand by that prediction. Now, if you haven't been following professional disc golf for very long, you may not be familiar with JohnE McCray, but he's been playing disc golf professionally for over 25 years. His signature long-distance turbo putts and flowing beard made him a popular figure in the disc golf community. Even after being sidelined by a life-threatening heart attack in 2022, JohnE remains 1022 rated and ranks second in the 2024 Global Masters Series, behind only Brian Schwebiger. The PDGA has given JohnE 9 months probation for a Class C offense. The action apparently stems from an incident at this year's Tim Selinsky Masters Tournament. JohnE called a foot fault violation on Barry Schultz during a playoff. However, the tournament marshal on his card would not second the call, which infuriated JohnE. According to spectators and other competitors, JohnE had a serious meltdown and was verbally aggressive with officials and volunteers. He ended up winning the hole, and therefore the tournament, outright, which made for an awkward trophy presentation. If you think spectating Masters tournaments is boring, think again. Sometimes they can be surprisingly entertaining. According to the PDGA, Class C offenses require a pattern of misbehavior, and unfortunately for JohnE, this isn't the first time his conduct has gotten him into hot water. He has a history of being argumentative and hostile on the course. In a now infamous clip from the 2016 Memorial, JohnE can be seen loudly complaining and counting out 30 seconds while waiting on the tee pad for Paul Macbeth to finish taking a bathroom break. Now, on the other hand, an argument can be made that JohnE's frustration at the Tim Selinsky Masters Tournament incident was understandable, even though the way that he handled it was out of line. Because this happened during a playoff, there were only 2 players on the card at the time. Rules violations called by players in this type of scenario require a second, and if the PDGA official assigned to the card was not paying attention, the players had zero ability to enforce the rules. I think it's likely that these circumstances were considered as mitigating factors in the disciplinary committee's decision to give JohnE 9 months probation rather than the standard 12. Eric Oakley is well liked by many and has a supportive fan base. People who have met him describe him as kind and fun, but it has been widely reported that he sometimes lets bad rounds affect his attitude on the course. The PDGA Disciplinary Committee found that Eric committed a Class C offense and imposed a 12-month probation, which is standard for Class C offenses. It's worth noting that JohnE received only a 9-month probation for his Class C offense. I think it's safe to assume that the committee found there to be mitigating factors in JohnE's case, but they did not find the same to be true for Eric. It's difficult for us to know exactly what conduct caused Eric's probation. The PDGA Disciplinary Committee is required to make a reasonable attempt to inform any PDGA member accused of a rules violation that an investigation is ongoing and what the nature of the investigation is. This includes sending a summary of the complaint to the accused individual, stating the event or events where the accusation for improper behavior was levied, and a description of the accusation. In a post on social media, Eric seemed to imply that he was unaware of the investigation. He wrote that he had been put on probation for courtesy violations called and uncalled. He had never received any official warnings, and that he had no further information than that. One of the most frequently used but controversial words found in many legal documents is reasonable. The PDGA's own description of the disciplinary process requires the committee at a minimum to provide the required information by, quote, certified electronic mail to the accused individual's address on file with the PDGA. I'm not sure what is meant by certified electronic mail, but it seems implausible to me that the PDGA couldn't figure out how to contact Eric Oakley. So either Eric isn't being 100% transparent about the PDGA not contacting him, or the PDGA's idea of what making a reasonable attempt to contact him means differs from mine. I note that Eric's statement said that he has, quote, cooperated fully, which suggests to me there must have been at least some communication between him and the PDGA around this issue. Eric also stated that he received notice of the discipline from the PDGA by email. That suggests to me that the PDGA has his correct contact information. It's likely Eric's discipline from the PDGA was, like JohnE, based on a pattern of behavior. It's been reported that at the 2024 Crocal Open, Eric was a menace to his card, putting out of turn, yelling constantly, and being generally aggressive. At the 2023 Maine State Championship, there were reports of Eric swearing, punching his bag, and throwing tantrums. After the Maine State tournament, Eric apologized on social media. He apologized to his cardmates, sponsors, and the team running the event. You all deserve better from me. All I can control now is how I act going forward. I can only hope to remedy this by learning from it and giving back to this community with my next opportunity. So I'm curious to hear what you all think. Is the PDGA's disciplinary process fair? Did the disciplinary committee get it right in these cases? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Please leave a comment. Also, like this video, subscribe to our channel, and as always, thanks for watching.